Hello, listeners. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever and whenever you're listening from. This is the Petty Cash Podcast, and as you all know, this podcast represents the last of the Petty Cash. I am your host for the week, Danny. Joined by me, as always, are my co-hosts, Joe, Charles, and Vinny. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. All woke up and everything and had a bunch of coffee, but I'm doing good. Just staying out of the sun.
Hey everyone. Yeah, I'm doing a lot better now that the air conditioning in my car is working again.
Yeah, I think it's been 2 episodes since you first said something was wrong with
Yeah,
your car.
it has been a couple episodes, and I'm glad to report that the air conditioning is working exceptionally well. So much so that I actually have had to turn it down and how much it blows because it gets that cold.
How's the windshield doing?
On the other hand, though, yeah, the windshield. Actually, I just heard back from them today, and they said that Tuesday, the guy that handles, I guess, all of the accounts for the windshield repairs and replacements and all that will be in. And so, yeah, so I'm like, okay, I gotta wait until Tuesday. In the meantime, it's slowly cracking more and more. So I'm praying that it doesn't, like, shoot across the windshield.
Hey, Elmer! Sorry, I had to open up with that one.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Vinny, aka VCG Cosplay. I'm doing alright. Just doing my usual. I got back on my workout this week. I did my walks and my HIIT cardio.
So you're abandoning our workouts, huh?
No. I'm trying to preserve gas because we have our trip coming up. And also, you guys do your workouts right around the time when dinner happens. So it's hard for me to even, like...
We get food afterwards, man.
I know, but again, I'm trying to save money here.
Well, it's not like we're working out every day. We work like, what, twice a week?
Yeah.
Well, still, I do want to come out and work out with you guys because it's a lot of fun. But other than that, real quick, Spirit Halloween has officially opened its flagship store.
I know where we're going afterwards.
Well, if it's open here.
Yeah, we got to see if it's open up here. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah.
Oh, their flagship? You mean like that's elsewhere?
So yeah, their flagship is like the grand store that they open up first, and they have a whole grand opening and everything. Oh, and then the other stores slowly open up with it.
I was not aware of that.
I didn't know that either.
Think of it this way: it's the Upside Down's, portal hole, and it just spreads throughout the lands.
Yeah, I remember seeing like the opening date online. So like, oh, July 30th or 31st, if you remember which. But I just figured, okay, that's the date all stores open, or at least all stores can start opening.
Yeah.
But I didn't know there was like a giant store, like a headquarters per se.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking up at Dinosaur Dracula, but yeah, their flagship store is in New Jersey because everything Spirit Halloween came from that area.
Yes, that's where it's
So, hopefully.
But yeah, I'm hoping like once the store over here is open afterwards, because like this year I definitely want to. I think we discussed this. We want to do like a Stranger Things Halloween party. Yeah. I need to get my Scoops Ahoy Steve, my Scoopy Steve as I call it.
I always think like you were gonna say Scuba Steve. Scuba Steve. And don't blame the delivery guy. It's not his fault he can't read.
Scuba Steve, damn you!
Oh yeah. Okay, I know I'm gonna be guilty of this. Did you order the name tag from Etsy?
I have not ordered.
Okay, yeah. So what we're gonna do is dress up as Scoops Ahoy and just take over like a Baskin Robbins.
Just walk in one day. You guys, I'm here for my first day.
Okay, if we're gonna do that, I need to get my Chief of Police Hopper costume from Stranger Things Season 1.
Well, you basically have what was the
Season 3.
Yeah, what was the nickname for that Hopper outfit?
Oh, Magnum PI.
Yeah, Magnum. You have Magnum PI Hopper basically already. You just need to grow out your mustache a little bit more.
It's so hard because my family hates the fact that I have the mustache.
Well, just shave the cheeks and the chin and just leave the upper lip. But yeah, I need to get the Scoopy Steve outfit. I need to get those name tags that you sent me, and I need to get like decent Chucks because that's what they wear. Like those are the tennis shoes.
He wore like the regular, like the old school 1980s Adidas.
Adidas? Okay, I'll keep my eyes out for something similar looking for that. But enough small talk out of the way, gentlemen. We have a topic for today. Today, Let us discuss vacations of old, the best and the worst memories you have traveling the country, the state, or the world, if you guys are that adventurous. I definitely haven't traveled the world, but I've at least traveled the country a little bit. So, Charles, why don't you start us out with that?
Oh my gosh, putting me on the spot.
Yep.
All right.
Well,
Yes, it's all about me. Yeah, welcome. Welcome to the Charles Podcast. No, I'm kidding.
welcome to the Yo Podcast.
the Yo Podcast. Oh man, well, actually, for me, it seemed like I didn't really have too many like trips and stuff, at least until I got into my like my 20s and 30s. Just mainly because like when I was a kid and teenager, my folks were didn't have a whole lot of extra extra spending money or extra petty cash for trips, but I do have quite a handful of ones that I think were mostly good. One was I guess a trip that it was actually a business trip it was to Canada, and I've actually a couple trips to Canada really. One was for fun, and one was a business trip, and both times that I've been to Canada, it's just been really awesome. It can get really cold, so make sure you bring bring your cold weather. Yeah, bring multiple layers, because I know for us here in Arizona, we're like, oh, light jacket, we should be fine. No, you will not be fine in Canada. You need extra layers, but it's just been so I enjoy going to Canada. Just how the cities are, how colorful they are, how like awesome so many of the people are. You will run into the weird, like some of them getting ultra aggressive like on the road, but otherwise like just interactions day to day with like people, they're really nice. And like I know one of my favorite trips was when we went to Fort McLeod and got to see the Ghostbusters Afterlife filming like locations and
Danny's so salty.
yeah, he's still.
How are you not salty? They didn't tell us.
I'm happy for them.
I am happy for them, but like.
Didn't tell you. We said like, hey, you guys got your passports? No.
All you said, like, oh, we're thinking about planning a trip to Canada. Do you guys have your passports?
That was like in 2 months. Well, now 3 months ago. Like, and it was like, yeah, getting the passports. You were kind of in a crunch.
I was in a crunch, yes, because I had to get mine renewed. And I had to pay like all the extra fees to try and get it done. And I was like fingers crossed. I think it was like in the last like
week.
It was a week. I got my renewal back in a week. And yeah. But yeah, okay, what you got?
Oh no. Like just to add, I mean, if you guys didn't have your passports but you bought the tickets in time, can you just imagine the headache, of because we went during like COVID restrictions and all that. And I mean, you also got to update your driver's license now. Here in Arizona, you got to have like the gold star.
Stupid little star.
I mean, there's just a $5 to just renew your license and everything. But that's, I mean, I guess just to travel within the states. But it's funny when you said when we went to Calgary, when you said like there were some like, drivers and all that. When we went to Tim Hortons, after our trip from the Walmart that Paul Rudd's all like running, there was a Tim Hortons that we like stopped at this cross, and like there was all of us. We were all waiting there, and you just see people going like, "You go." No, you go. No, you go. And I'm like, oh, crap. And I'm like, well, I'm the only American. Fuck it. Didn't even acknowledge. Just go. Yeah.
Joe's just driving by. America.
Yeah, I remember that, and also just going to all the different locations and just seeing like how unique the housing was too, because here in Arizona, a lot of them, especially in like some of the newer neighborhoods, they can have a lot of similarities. Because of Arizona loves the Adobe styling of houses. So, they can all be kind of similar. So to see different housing and stuff like that, and it makes you realize, so that's why they go to Canada so often to film, because there's so much like cool architecture and stuff to look at.
And it's so pretty up there too.
And it is, yeah. So, that was, I think, like a good one, but it also did have the some bad points to it too, like you brought up with the COVID restrictions. Like on our return trip back, we planned it because what it was is you could take a test and it would last for, what was it,
72 hours.
72 hours. That's
Yes.
right, 72 hours. And so we took, it was so stupid. We took the test on Thursday, yeah, so that we would be good for our trip, or for our flight up. And then, like, right before we left, we took another test so that we could get the results for the return flight back. And we got them, got it. It was negative for both tests. And we were coming back. And we were getting on our, trying to get boarded and everything. And this lady was like, "Oh, okay, so where's your negative test results?" And we're like, "Oh, okay, right here." We bring it up on our phone. And she's reading it thoroughly and everything. And she's like, "That's not in effect anymore." And I was like, "Wait, what do you mean?" And she's like, "Oh, it's not within 3 days." I'm like, wait, no, 72 hours. She's like, "Yes, 3 days, but 72 hours, And she was trying to claim that it's basically like a day. So instead of it being, regardless of whether you took it like maybe at 7 in the morning or 11:59, at night, PM, it didn't matter. It counted for that day. So it's like, oh, you took it at 11:59 p.m., that night. That only counts for that day from, when you took it to the beginning of that day versus, 72 hours. And we're like, no, all the stuff we looked up said 72 hours. And we were, God, how many minutes was it? It was
the delay, our flight was supposed to be from I think 2:15 or 3:30. So what happened was that we got there at 10:30, and we're still in the mark because our test results were good till 3:30. 3:30. And we were staying, we were kind of waiting to check in, and they didn't open until 12 or 1, and then that's when we ran into that thing, and it was just a headache after headache. And they went through 3 people, and I'll just call them out there in Calgary. It's in the Calgary Airlines, but yeah, Alaska Airlines, sweet criminy. But just gonna say, yeah, all it took was thankfully the manager, and she looked at the time because it was kind of we were about to turn into Karens, or can we speak to your manager and all that, because luckily she just walked over because she was like, why are we all having a problem here? So she looked at the dates, and then she just looked over down at the time of our test results and all that, and she was like, you guys are fine and all that, go. So thank you, whoever.
Thank you.
That was the saving grace, because they wanted us to go downstairs, take a test. We weren't going to get the results till 2, maybe 4 or 5 hours. Yeah.
It would have been, I think, past our flight, or it would have been super close. And that was hoping that it tested negative.
Yeah.
Because because they had an on-site testing, but the results would be back, it would have been super close to our flight leaving. And plus we'd have had to pay for it. And that was also hoping that somehow we didn't catch it in between the 2 times of when we tested, and it somehow comes up positive. Because then that would have been a whole nother headache in and of itself, because you also had to come up with a plan for what you were going to do to quarantine if you tested positive and you were stuck in Canada. So it's and you had to be there for 2 weeks, and it's great. So we had to come up with a plan of oh, here's where we're going to stay. Here's how we're going to get food, blah, blah, blah. The Air Canada app, which, by the way, that was funny too, because they were supposed to look up the information when you pulled up the Air Canada app. And all they were doing was just do you have the app? You just hold it up And they're like, okay, go on through. That was it. It was like, you're not going to look at any of the info on it? You're not going to scan the barcode or anything like that? But whatever. But fortunately, we were fine. And I think we took a test after we got back, and we were still fine. So, yeah. It's like we were good. But so that was like both a positive and a negative. So...
I'll say I had to like write this down because there's like a couple of good many trips out there. I would say I'll start with the least favorite ones just because they're short and that's why I don't like to, go through it again. But out-of-state funerals. Those are the worst. Whenever I had to grandparents' funerals, like flying up to Anchorage, those are like the worst. It's great the whole family's together, but it's kind of like, these people have been with me since I was a baby. So it was like, and you really don't feel it. You get through the service, but when any death happens, of course, it just happens, and then you're like, crap, I miss them. So, those are probably like worst trips. Now, granted, like with the thing that happened in Calgary, that was kind of like but I've never encountered like worst trips. Usually when we drive through like deserts of California, like luckily cars never break down in the middle of nowhere, because I would rank that high. You have no idea. Like I would be like, oh hell.
You reminded me of one, but continue.
Yeah. So, I got quite a few, and, I try to limit, like, some of, like, the Comic-Con ones, but I do love my family reunions. There was one in 2014 that I thought was really fun. Had my mom's best friend. We used to go to, like, Las Vegas most of the time, so every time people said, like, Vegas and all that, and they're really super happy. Me, I'm just like, I've been there before, but I never gambled or anything because they always shoved us like to the arcades. Like, hey, keep the kids at the arcades and they'll be fine. So, let's see. We're going down. I would say my good pal JD and I, when we went to San Diego Comic-Con, 2007. So right when we graduated, we're driving down from his apartment. Like I do remember like when the conversation started. So we were at Higley and Baseline, and he was just like, dude, do you want to go to San Diego Comic-Con? And I kind of turned to him, and
what?
Yeah, so I was just like, let's freaking go, man. So I have an uncle that lives there. So we went over there, and, dude, you're just bombarded with, like San Diego, if you haven't gone there, it turns into geek mecca and everything like that. Being a 5-timer going over there, it sucked. Like back then, it was like so calm. Now, it's expensive. Don't get me wrong, but now there's so many. Like the prices are insane. The waiting lines online, like just to get tickets, are just bonkers and all that. You don't want to go through that headache. But, those times from 2007, we got to see, so you're going to love this one. So we went down the floor, and this was 2007, so this was the battle, not the battle, but this was like the premieres, like the coming up premieres of Iron Man and The Dark Knight. So I do have a picture seeing this crate. And of course, in that crate was the Mark I, like a life size. Like, imagine that, like, jaw drop. And what was great was they had like the lines roped off. And everything just to pass by. Sideshow Collectibles, Marvel, and next thing you know, like Jon Favreau, Stan Lee, Gwyneth Paltrow, Terrence Howard, Robert Downey Jr. From where, you guys, Charles, Vinny, where you guys are at sitting, like that's how close I was to Robert Downey. And he was welcoming as Tony Stark and all that. He had lifts, which was pretty funny because he's a short guy. And so you're just kind of like, this is freaking awesome. And here it is, the Mark I, they like tore down the crate and all that. And it's like, holy crud.
God, the Mark I's my favorite.
Seeing that was amazing. But this was the start of the viral marketing campaign with like The Dark Knight. So there was a couple people, they were passing out little flyers. I think I sent you guys pictures like months ago where it had like, vote for Dent and all that, and he had like kind of like the graffiti on with the smile and everything, ha ha ha, and all that. And you see like a plane and all that, like, call this number, ha 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 ha. So people would call this 1-800 number, and they would it would be a voicemail of Joker, of Heath Ledger's Joker. And so I think what was really great was, our first Comic-Con, when they kind of like, all right, now please, here's the premiere of the Dark Knight teaser, all the TVs go out. And I was surprised they kept like all the TVs now, not just at the DC Warner Brothers booth, but like everywhere.
Really?
Yeah, there were some, and it's the voiceover, and you hammer them. So it's the line from the movies. Some men don't want to be captured. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn. And then we hear Heath Ledger's Joker for the first time, and then the bat breaks, and the next thing you know, the last crack is basically coming forth, and it's the Joker card, and he laughs. People were like, holy shit, like, we're gonna get our first taste of Joker. And if you go on the Dark Knight site and everything, they have like a little pumpkin, and the pumpkin would rot and rot and rot till the day of that trailer premiere. Then it would show like Heath Ledger just kind of like white face and all that with the it was our first time seeing him. But Comic-Cons were pretty fun. God, dude, I got a lot, man, and so let me just skip ahead. Going to Manhattan in 2015 was awesome. Seeing all the Ghostbuster locations, walking through, let's say Columbus Circle and all that. Central Park, that was amazing. I saw Tavern on the Green, where Moranis ran from his apartment. Going to Dana Barrett's apartment, it was, okay, never go to Manhattan during the wintertime.
That cold?
The breeze through the buildings and all that. Like, dude, if you're talking, like, that is the harshest cold, not Canada, Manhattan. When you just feel that breeze breezing through the buildings and all, people have to lobby hop just to the next building and all that because it gets really, really cold.
It's like a video game.
There's not a fat person in single sight because everyone's walking. So, maybe the taxi driver, but, movies parodied. Yeah. But, so we walk in there, and there goes, like, the bellhop guy, and he's just kind of, like, looking at me, and... yeah, I'm just kind of like, just trying to stay warm here, sir. So at Dana Barrett's apartment building, 55 Central Park West. He's like, what's your name? Joseph Lalogan, man. And he's like, okay. Joseph Lalogan has entered 55 Central Park West. Like, in the entrance, I'm like, what the hell?
What?
And he's just like, sorry, dude, that's my job and all that. Oh, cool. Like, it felt kind of like royalty and all that. So if you guys haven't, go inside the lobby so the bellhop guy would actually announce your name. And he's like, why are you here? I unzip my jacket and out bust, like, the Ghostbusters logo. And he was just like, of course. But dude, like, go to New York, best food ever, man. That's cannolis, street pizzas, dude. Like hot dogs, man. And there's this place called Insomnia Cookies. Oh, dude, you could order cookies.
Wait, I think they have Insomnia Cookies here.
Yeah, but you can order those cookies at like 2 or 3 in the morning.
I think you can here as well. I know they're open late. I don't know how late, but I know they're open late.
It's not like in New York. In New York, you can get that anytime.
It's a city that never sleeps. Hence,
Hence
that's
the
where.
nickname.
Yeah. City that. Yeah. So that was really fun. Got to go through Grand Station. That was pretty cool. So, I was like, oh man, didn't an asteroid crash through here in Armageddon? There was protesters and all that. I don't know what they were doing, but it was like, man, this is just like in the movies and all that. I saw the Seinfeld diner, which was awesome.
Also for you.
And went to the toy place where they film Big. So they do have the dancing piano. Tom Hanks was on with Robert Loggia.
See, this makes me sad because when I went to New York, I didn't get to experience any of that.
See, again, when that trip happens, we'll definitely go to Manhattan. Let's see. Orlando, that was a pretty fun trip. Went to Disney World, but coming off from like Disneyland and all that. I was just like, the only difference is, you know, you're traveling to an island. So, let's see. The most recent trip I went to was I went to across 3 different states. That was amazing. So I went to Boston, Massachusetts, to New Hampshire, and then to Bangor, Maine. So Bangor, Maine, if you haven't, that's actually the place where Stephen King and his wife Tabitha King got all, like, basically where they, you know, raise their kids and all that. And I mean, me and the, you know, girlfriend at the time, we went to all these places that inspired all the novels that Stephen King wrote and everything. So we got to visit, like, the character's house, Bill's house from It, and the sewage and everything. And it wasn't like the sewage that they kind of it was actually just a little manhole, you know. But no, they went to the diner that actually inspired this short story Trucks, which also became Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. But no, I mean, the places I listed, though, I mean, those are definitely some places I would love to revisit again. I went to Mexico as a kid, but, I mean, as a kid, I can't really remember too much. But, yes, I heard it's fun. Definitely need to go back.
For me, I've basically taken the same, like, trip the last, like, 20 years. Me and my family, our annual, like, our yearly trip is just to go to Disneyland. But, of course, every year we go, there's something different. Now, I remember going, I want to say this was December 2019, the weekend or the week I graduated from college. And so we go there, and Galaxy's Edge is open. Like, Star Wars Land is finally open in Disneyland. However, we were just a few weeks too early for Rise of the Resistance to open, so we didn't get to ride that until July of last year. But that December trip, that was probably one of the best trips, like, of recent memory of us just going to Disney. Basically, the entire family was there. I had a lot of money from relatives, like, hey, congrats for graduating. Here's like $20. So I had a lot of money just like spend on myself. Weirdly, I didn't spend as much money on myself as I expected. I mainly spent money on gifts for all my friends that year. But walking into Galaxy's Edge that year, like, that was the first time I'd been there in person. Man, just like the atmosphere, the sound effects, like you hear ships flying over you, you hear like random creatures in the bushes. You feel like you're in Star Wars. You feel like you're in a movie. Now, granted, this is now interesting. Back when it first opened, like, oh, this land is locked in between the ending of Episode 8 and the beginning of Episode 9, but it seems like they're changing that now because we have Boba Fett and Fennec Shand from the Mandalorian verse walking around now. Like, okay, well, fairly confident you two weren't alive during the sequel trilogy, so whatever. But it's cool to see like more characters starting to pop up in the land. Another fun trip was the July of last year trip. Now, Disney was closed all throughout 2020 and just started opening up to like California residents and like, okay, like the U.S., like the rest of the country can now visit the land. It's like, okay, sweet. We're going to go there for 2 days. Now, the circumstances around the trip were interesting. So I put my time in for this trip for my work at the time. And so I got my time in. I got it approved. Unfortunately, I had a coworker at the time who not decided, but like her daughter's wedding was that summer. She went to Italy for her daughter's summer, so somebody had to cover her shift. So I had to cut my trip short to get back home to go to work that next day. I think we went I was there all of Wednesday. I was there Wednesday night, and then I was there Thursday, but I had to fly home Thursday night to make it Friday morning for that shift so I could cover for that person. Jesus. Wow. Yeah. But still, that was a short, fun trip. That's when I went to Avengers Campus for the first time that summer. And this was back when we had the stupid boarding pass thing for the Disney parks. Like you had to it was like basically like a lottery system, like for Rise of the Resistance and for Spider-Man's ride in Avengers Campus. You had to log into the Disneyland app. You had to like load your tickets onto the app, get your start pressing the get boarding pass for this ride. And if you had to be so lucky twice a day, you either had to get it at 7 a.m. California time or 12 p.m. California time. If not, you did not get on that ride. So waking up early to see if I could get both things for a boarding pass for the Spider-Man ride and then a boarding pass for my parents later on in the day for Rise of Resistance. I did it for Spider-Man. Like, I couldn't tell. It looked like I didn't get anything. So I drove over to my parents' house. I had to go pick up some extra medicine. I'm driving back to my place so my friend can take me to the airport. It says, your boarding party is now ready. I somehow managed to get number 1 in the boarding list. It didn't say I got that when I went in the app, but the notification said, oh yeah, you're ready. I went back and it said, yeah, boarding group 1, now get in line. I'm like, I am a god on this app. Thankfully, once I finally got there, it was like 2 p.m. Like, okay, will they still accept this? I'm like, yeah, hey, so I missed my time. I was flying in. Like, oh yeah, no, get in line. The first time riding that Spider-Man ride was so awesome. It's basically like a more high-tech version of Toy Story Midway Mania for anyone who's been on that ride. It's basically like a Marvel version of that, but instead of like having to shoot like a virtual gun at like the things, you're actually using your hands as web shooters, and the tracking is fairly accurate on that ride. So I actually felt like when I was aiming at like say a light pole where there was a spider bot, it actually went towards it instead of like going to the left, going to the right, like going around it instead. It actually went towards it. So I was very impressed by the tracking system on that ride. Highly recommend we all go on that when we go in October. And then the next day we were at Disney, had to fly home, went to work. So it was a short trip, but it was still a decently fun trip. Last year, though, was one of the first few times I went to a state that wasn't California. I went to Utah for a Salt Lake City Fan X, which was basically Salt Lake City Comic-Con. That was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we were only there for one day, so we flew up, went to the convention, and flew back the same day. Don't recommend doing that. I recommend if you're going out of state for a convention, you got to go at least 2 days so that you're not like for us. So our flight was early in the morning. We flew in. Salt Lake City is beautiful. Like in September, it was like 80 degrees. There was a slight breeze going that day. It was gorgeous out there, and the city itself is beautiful. Because we were just general admission, we didn't have access until like I want to say 12 o'clock to get into the convention floor. So we walked around the main city a little bit. We got a bite to eat. It was such a beautiful city. So we get into the convention floor. Walking into the convention, I'm like, this just feels like the Phoenix Fan Fusion. This feels normal. It's like the smell of the convention center was very similar, if not the same, as the Phoenix Convention Center smell. Like the whole layout is like this feels normal. This doesn't feel like we're going to a convention during like COVID lockdown. It feels like normal again. I only got to meet two celebrities that day just because we were so short on time. I got to meet a voice actress by the name of Christiana V. She was very nice. I can only get a selfie with her because she didn't have any prints for the character I wanted. But then I got to meet Ashley Eckstein, the infamous voice of Ahsoka Tano from Clone Wars, Rebels, and then the end of Rise of Skywalker. I waited in her line almost 2 hours. And not because like the line was moving slow, because okay, next. No. Ashley Eckstein took her time with her fans. And so by the end, like when I finally got there, and also her autograph was $100. I didn't realize that. So one of the more expensive autographs I'd paid for. But I finally get out there. I was like, oh, it's so nice to meet you, Miss Eckstein. Like I remember my aunt taking me to the Clone Wars movie back in theaters. And she's like, oh, so you basically have grown up with Ahsoka in a way. I'm like, I guess I have. That's a fun way of putting it. So she signed my my pop. that's one of the few I probably won't ever sell because that was such a nice memory. Like finally meeting this voice actress, taking her time with me, and then signing my thing. That was a nice like end to that trip. My dad got to meet I think William Daniels. He's from a lot of things, but the thing I knew him from was 1776, the movie musical. But then like the last 40 minutes before we had to catch an Uber back to the airport, we're just walking around convention center like, oh sweet, Zuko Pop, grab that. Oh sweet, Sonic Pop for my sister, grab that for Christmas. It was a nice trip. I just wish we had stayed longer during that time. I would like to go back there. I was able to get a press pass. Thanks to my buddy Matt from Monstrosities, which you also go subscribe to that YouTube channel. But unfortunately, it went ultimately underutilized because I didn't get to interview as many stars as I wanted to. But the fact that I still got to like talk to a few stars, like talk to them about like their career, some of their favorite moments, like in like recording booths, that was a lot of fun. Just getting to do that. I would definitely would like to go back to Salt Lake Fanix again. The only other trips I can think of is like me going to Las Vegas when I was like 10. So I kind of remember it, but I went to Vegas before I could like have a lot of fun. I haven't been to Vegas since I've like since I've turned 21. So I wouldn't mind going back and be like, oh sweet, I can gamble now. Oh sweet, I can drink at the bars. So that'd be a fun trip to take sometime in the future.
As for my trip experiences, I've been to quite a few places. Joe, related to you, I unfortunately had to go to my grandmother's funeral back in a few years ago. God, I can't remember how long ago, but we had to go to Texas for that with my sisters. Been to California on multiple occasions for family, Disneyland, of course. So many times I loved going on those trips by myself because I just got to be a big kid and just enjoy the park. I got to take pictures with a lot of characters. And, of course, one of my favorite Disney trip experiences was the Cars Land grand opening. I was in line for hours. We're talking 8-9 hours dedicated to go try that ride. So,
which I gotta add. That what's that car? What's the main ride called again at Cars Land?
it's like the race.
Radiator Springs Racers.
Yeah.
That ride is no longer worth the multiple hour wait time. It's worth maybe an hour, maybe.
It's
but
fun though.
It's okay. Like when I first rode that, it's an okay ride, but it is nowhere near a multiple hour wait.
Regardless, though, the energy vibes from being there that day was just absolutely phenomenal. It felt like 1955 all over again with the grand opening at Disney. Wow. I've been to Mexico when I was younger for dental work. That was a whole new experience. Oh wow! Like if you're in a family that's broke as hell, the cheapest way to get dental work done is in Mexico by the border. Like that was just scary as hell. And then, of course, I've been to Texas. I've been to I went on a school trip that I paid for through my family to Boston, Massachusetts, and New York City. And unfortunately, we were only there for 6 days. So we spent 3 days in Boston, Massachusetts, and 3 days in New York. Boy, where do I begin with this one? So the Boston, Massachusetts was fun for me because I am a huge buff on the Revolutionary War history. It's one of my favorite histories ever in American history. And we got to see the church where they hung the lanterns, one of by land, two of by sea. Oh, cool. We actually saw the staircase going up. It is narrow. It's about as wide as your laptop, dude. Oh, wow. That's how tiny that staircase.
That's barely big enough for a person to
I know. It was so narrow. It was ridiculous. But we saw the graveyards. We saw where the Boston Massacre was. We got to try some Philly food and all this good stuff. And it was a really cool place. I would love to go back there to visit again to get more in depth. Because this school trip, it was 3 days. All of our fucking food was a majority of McDonald's, which really made me sick to my stomach. I hated it. And when we finally got to go to New York, it was really cool. But what's funny is this is during the summertime, and we're all wearing like long sleeve shirts, a little bit because it was cold.
Really?
It was really cold in summertime, and people are looking at us like, "Are you guys tourists?" And we made the joke just being like, "I'm from the South, the deep South." They were like, "Oh," I'm like, "Yeah, we're from Arizona. It's all good." But our trip to New York was such a dud because we paid to go see two Broadway shows. We went and saw Hairspray. That was a really fun experience. But then one of our classmates got sick. And the tourist really, really loved my energy. She loved the fact that I was so enthusiastic. And the day that one of our friends got sick, she really wanted me to go along. And my teacher was very super strict, very insecure. And apparently I was making her upset because I would disappear. I'm like, I didn't disappear. I told you where I was going. You're just not paying attention. And we ended up missing out on the Broadway show Chicago. And I was so pissed. I wanted to see Chicago so badly. And everybody was going to like Toys R Us. They were going here, here, and here. I hanged out with another group. The one thing we did get to go do, for the record, first of all, we missed out on seeing the actual Ghostbuster locations in person. We were just drive-bys. That was such an insult to me as a kid. And I was just like, damn it. We went to Central Park. We saw the Friends apartment. I saw Kirsten Dunst when they were filming Spider-Man 3. Oh. So the scene where you see her walking through the street and she picks up the phone and it's Harry calling her, that's where I was.
Yo.
I was in that spot. I still have the photos, but they were never processed. And of course we went to Liberty Island. We saw all the cool historical stuff. But I just New York was fun, but we still missed out on a lot of good things. It was just a bummer that I didn't get to go see the Chicago play and all that stuff. And we were stuck in the hotel all freaking day because of that. We literally get on the bus just to go back, and we were stuck in the hotel. And that whole moment was just a blur. But going back to Chicago, Boston, Massachusetts. One of the cool parts that we did get to go see is the Black House with the 13 windows. Ooh. Oh, yeah. We were in Salem for that trip. Yikes. And my teacher was such a paranoid schizophrenic. She was very religious. She hated witches. So we couldn't even go into the shops. She was such a strict mother hen. We couldn't even go look at the stuff inside the shops. And we were just like, well, this is boring as hell. But when we were there, there was a beautiful couple getting married. They were taking pictures over by the cliff. And it was just a beautiful day. And we're seeing the house. And just as about we were leaving, I just happened to look and I could feel somebody was staring at me through those windows. I could feel someone reaching out and reaching back. I was just like, okay, I know you're there. I just can't explain it.
Yeah, I think in a future episode we'll definitely talk more about paranormal experiences and just spooky stuff in general. But you mentioning that Spider-Man 3 scene, it always reminds me of a stupid but funny joke I always associate with that scene, because that's the scene where MJ calls Harry. Yeah. But it's the scene that follows Harry. He's painting fruit.
Oh yeah, that was so stupid. He's just like, hey.
But the joke that always pops up with me is like, this is even better than quilt sewing. Oh boy, the phone. I hope it's more cotton candy delivery. It kills me every time.
Real quick, just speaking of New York, one more thing I really need to bring up. One of my favorite things I did get to go see, we were at Ground Zero. Oh. And what really made that difficult, this was back in 2006. And
so just shy of the 10-year anniversary.
They were still digging up bodies. There were still bodies. The buildings were still in rubble. They had tunnels going throughout different sites. And I still remember this girl to the day I die. She was at the entrance to the World Trade Center, right where the gate was, just standing there. And I asked her group leader, I'm like, is she okay? And she said her brother was the bellhop in that building. And he died that day.
Wait, I thought the World Trade Center was business.
It was, but they had elevator operators.
Oh, they still had elevator operators.
Yeah, he was one of those operators, and he died in that incident.
I didn't know they had. Well, I mean, like turn of the century, they probably. I'm guessing turn of the century, they probably still had elevator operators, but I feel like they were slowly starting to become phased out.
Yeah, they were slowly being phased out, but it was New York City. I mean, when you have somebody who can't reach the buttons, it's like, what floors does everybody need? Okay, here. So
interesting. Another piece of trivia I didn't know about the World Trade Center.
Oh yeah, And I even went downstairs where I saw all the little painted mural tile stones for the World Trade Center. And then, of course, one of the cool things that was there, too, there was the dig site. And right in the center of it was the cross that they unburied from the World Trade Center, just standing there in the middle as hope. And it was just such a beautiful monument. And you really felt the weight of that site. And it's just something that I will never, ever forget for the rest of my life.
So as you guys were talking, you brought up a couple of points, and it reminded me of a few other trips as well. So first, like Vegas. So with some of my friends, will do this yearly trip because they have like timeshares. A couple of them have timeshares and things like that. And so we'll do like this, yearly, like, college friends reunion, trip. And so we've gone to like Vegas, and we've gone to like Roswell, New Mexico, and it was so cool, like walking through some of the stores and stuff in Roswell, and just seeing like how they've totally embraced the all of the culture with the aliens and everything like that. Just how they're like they don't care anymore. They're just like, they embrace it. They love it. And just, if you ever get a chance to go to Roswell, highly recommend it. There's so many cool things to see there. I think there was even I was trying to find it, but there was some underground caverns that we were able to check out there too, and that was like so beautiful. And then the trip to Vegas, there was we went and saw the Blue Man Group and David Copperfield. David Copperfield was a pretty good show, but I highly recommend the Blue Man Group. If you haven't ever gone to a Blue Man Group show, highly recommend it. It is very entertaining.
I've never been to a concert, period.
Oh, okay. Well, I highly recommend checking out Blue Man Group. It was so awesome, just their expressions and how they interact with the crowd. And it was so funny, they brought up this one girl, and it was kind of like a risque saying like on her shirt, and they went on a air quotes date with her. And so they had like a whole skit around this date with this girl, and it was hilarious, and she was playing it up too, and it was just it was so entertaining. But then also too, I was reminded of an incident that happened that I kind of wanted to share on a trip that happened. It involved someone who shall not be named, but she was at one point in my life someone who was important. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. But anyway, so we were on basically a trip around like the lower half of the U.S., and we were doing we would camp at various campsites and stay there for a while, and she would go on photography trips and things like that while we were at these locations, and then we would go to another location. However, the thing is, and they don't ever really explain this, whenever you go RVing or camping or whatever, if you're a younger couple, it's kind of difficult because so many campsites are age restricted, meaning that they want you to be like 55 and older if you want to camp at your place. Yeah, it's weird. So it was always kind of like a bit of a sit down session to try and plan the next destination. Sometimes you could find campgrounds, like state park campgrounds that you could set up at, which were fine. Those are easy. Those didn't really have age restrictions per se. But other places that, like, if you wanted to stay at a location longer than, like, say a week or maybe a couple days, oftentimes they would, and it was so annoying. And if it wasn't the age restriction, you would also sometimes run into restrictions with how old your camper was. Now, what was good about this was when we got this camper, it was an older one. It was like from like I want to say it was like late 90s, early 2000s or whatever. We renovated it, so it looked more modern. Like it was clean on the outside. We got tons of compliments from the paintwork, and we painted it ourselves. So that was something. But the thing was that some places didn't care about that. They only cared about what year is it. And the second you told them, oh, well, you know, it was like late 90s, early 2000s, or whatever, they'd be like, oh, no, you can't camp here. I'm like, but we've renovated it. It looks brand new. We could send you the pictures. No, you can't. Like, so that made finding locations hard or difficult. And I remember we were going through Texas, and it was like getting into the winter months. And we had set up a location. I want to say it was either around San Antonio or Houston, because I know we were going through the lower half of Texas. And we had set up a location, and she's like, okay, yeah, we're only going to be there like a few days, and then we're going to head on through. She's like, okay, no problem. You know, we put down like a down payment or whatever, and we're like, okay, here's when we're going to show up. We get there, and the campsite is closed.
Oh, great.
And we're like, okay, so we call the number, and we can't get a hold of anybody. It's like, it's late evening. I want to say it was like 6 something. Because we told her, I was like, we're going to be showing up around like 6 or 7. Is that okay? She said, oh, sure, yeah. Just pull in. Here's your lot number. You can hook up, and then somebody will be by. We'll make sure you're all set up and everything. Okay, fine. We get there. It's closed. And so we contact the number. Can't get a hold of them. Contact the number. Can't get a hold of them. Jeez. And finally, we get a hold of them. And she says, oh, I'm sorry. We've had to close the camp. I'm sorry, what?
Close the camp.
Like, we put in reservations like maybe a day or two prior.
And you didn't bother
contacting. Yes, you didn't bother contacting anyone to say like, oh, we've had to close. Oh, no, sorry. Like, that's it. And she's like, oh, well, make sure we'll refund your deposit. At least they did that. But now here we are with a 5th wheel trailer, 2 tired drivers who've been driving for several hours because Texas is kind of big. Yeah. And it's late evening and we have no place to fucking stay. And so now we're on this app. There was this app that you could, like, campers and RVers could frequently update, like, on the fly. It was like a database, and like, oh, here's good locations where you can stay, here's emergency locations where you can stay. But it was kind of difficult because where we were at, there wasn't anything else. Like, so we pulled up a list of like other campsites. Hey, can we stay here? Oh, no vacancy. Camper's too old. Oh, age restricted.
Jeez,
we're like, son of a...
It's like Jesus at the end.
Pretty much. Yeah. And so we're just like, okay, what can we do? And so finally we look it up, and there was this Walmart Supercenter that said it allowed for like one night overnight stays if you stayed in the back lot of their area, because they had a very large parking lot. And so truck drivers and RVers could stay for just overnight at the far end of the lot. I'm like, okay, cool. So we go up there, we sit down. We don't fully detach or anything. We just put just enough down just to take some of the weight off the truck, but we're not fully deployed. And we look at the upcoming temperature. It's going to get down to almost near freezing. So we're like, okay. So we go into Walmart and we get extra jackets and all stuff like that. We get our space heater and everything like that. That was the single worst night ever. Really? Because it got so damn cold. We had our pug, we had our cat, and we brought them in the bedroom with us and had them close by so that they could try and stay as warm as possible. Mm-hmm. And we had, at one point, we were like, okay, it's too cold. We have to get our generator going. So we pulled out the generator, and we're just like, we're crossing our fingers, like, please don't let security get pissed that we had to pull out the generator, but it's like, we need heat. It is too cold. Mm-hmm. And, we fired up the generator, and thankfully security didn't come by and say anything, whatever. But that was the worst night. I think I only got like maybe a few hours of sleep. It was so freaking cold. But we made sure that the pets, had plenty of heat, and that they were taken care of. But that was the worst night ever because just where we were, the insulation wasn't quite as good. It was better like towards the floor, so the pets were fine. Like we checked on them, they were fine. And yeah, the generator ran most of the night, and yeah, that was the single worst like experience I've ever had on that trip. And I remember we said like never again. But yeah, so there you go.
Man, it makes me never want to go to Texas.
Not camping though.
Yeah, not for RV camping.
I don't think I've ever been in an RV. Thinking on that now, I know. Like growing up, I remember being in like one of those like stereotypical like hippie vans. With like we borrowed it from our grandparents. Like go to a drive-in here in Arizona, but I don't think I've ever been in an RV. Like that could probably be quite an experience in and of itself.
It's an interesting one. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Man, just all this talk about trips just makes me more excited for our trip in October.
Forget the trip next month.
Oh yeah, for Jerome.
Yeah.
First time for me going to the supposed haunted hotel in Arizona.
I know Vinny's anxious.
He stopped banging my table. But yeah, if any of you have some fun vacation stories you have yourselves, let us know in the comments down below. Or yeah, I think that'll do it for this week's episode of the Petty Cash Podcast. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow whatever platform you're listening to this from. But for now, this is Danny.
This is Joe.
This is Charles.
And Vinny.
And we're reminding you all to please remember to slow down, chew your food.
Give me that thing.